Hey folks, welcome back. So good to be with you again. I've got a bit of a surprise video for you today. I was not planning on putting this video on this channel, but I just shot some content for the week here, which I was going to get uploaded for you guys, and I went back to look at it, and it just wasn't up to standard at all. So I've scrapped that, but I've got tons of new content on the way soon, which is going to be really good. In the meantime, I thought it'd be fun here to cross-post my first video from the Future Human Project, which is my new platform that I just started. Link will be down below in the description, so you can go check out the channel and join over there if you're not already following. And for those of you who don't know the difference, the Future Human Project is kind of an expansion of the container, where over there we're going to be talking about a lot of the implications that come out of healing, that come out of psychedelic therapy, that come out of doing trauma work, that come out of understanding the nervous system. And what does this mean when we start to think about that at scale, or when we think about plugging that into what it means to be a human being, or into a life lived, or how does, tech and nervous system regulation and community building and, spiritual awakening and psychedelic therapy, how do these all fit together, right? So that's kind of stuff we'll be talking about over there. Today's video is the first of what will be hopefully be an ongoing flow of that content over there. And the focus is on a topic called the Great Rift. Okay, so the Great Rift is a concept that's kind of emerging. I'm not the first one to coin it. I'm just articulating my view on it. But what people are observing, and I agree here, is that if we just look down the trajectory of where we're headed in the near future here, and I'm talking very near future, next couple of years, we'll really be entering this, and then probably for the next 20 years, at least, if not longer, I think we're going to see a divide, okay? And this divide in society is going to be, I think, a stronger polarization than anything we've ever seen so far. And it's going to be along the lines of tech and humanity and what people feel like the right choice is or the right way to live is in relationship to technology, okay, essentially. So I think we will see at one extreme, we'll see transhumanists. We'll see people who are just, full on, plug me into the machine, upload my consciousness, give me the implant. I will modify myself until I'm barely human. I don't care. I want to live forever and I want to live inside technology. That's one extreme, right? And that is going to be arising quickly. We're going to see that along a lot of different domains, not just straight up AI, but AI is kind of the heart of that, right? On the other side of things, we have what you could think of as spiritual awakening, ascension, 5D activation, consciousness raising, the full actualization of the human blueprint and what it means to be a fully alive, fully awakened, fully actualized human being living in right relationship with other human beings, in community, in connectedness with each other, and in connection with nature. I think that's kind of the other extreme polarity. And you'll see deep forms of that where we're going to see, people just straight raw back to the earth, deep, earth-based, like leave all the tech behind kind of, kind of approaches to life. So the Great Rift is going to be this tension point between the two. And it's going to, I think, cause a lot of us to really have to look really deeply at a lot of questions about what it means to be a human being and what it means to have right relationship to technology. So without spoiling the whole thing for you here, I hope that gives you a little bit of a sense of what I'm about to talk about in this video. So again, this is a cross post from Future Human Project. If you like it, there will be a link down below. Please go check out the channel or any of the socials if you want to follow me on, IG, which I don't have going yet, but I will soon. TikTok's already up and running. There's a Substack. That's kind of the fountainhead of the new content. Go check it out. I would be honored to have you aboard for the ride. I think these conversations are going to be crucially timed and really interesting. They're going to be much more multifaceted than Integrative Psychonautics. But also, again, I'm still going to be doing the Integrative Psychonautics stuff. It's going to be talking about psychedelic therapy. I've got content on the way about, why people consistently have bad trips, especially at first, stuff like that. So I've got, my head still in the game here too. Okay, enough said. I hope you enjoy it. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment down below in the comment section, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. So as I've been pivoting into creating this new brand or this new container, however we want to think of that, and the conversations I want to have here, I started to map out and plot out what I think are some really key important foundational concepts, especially moving forward in the world we're moving into. Okay, so there are a lot of things that I think every human being, if I'm going to be honest here, needs to understand about where we're headed as a civilization, as a set of civilizations, but as human beings. And so this first set of, posts, videos, this will be a podcast at some point, so podcasts, all of that. This first batch of these sessions, these transmissions, are really going to be focused on a lot of these foundational concepts because they need to be spoken about because it's time and because, quite frankly, I don't see that many people having these conversations. And especially, I don't see people having these conversations in a well-rounded way that's unbiased and exploratory and kind of broad in scope, but high resolution, right? There are certainly people out there doing this. There are people I massively admire and respect. Maybe at some point, if this all grows, I'll be able to get them on and have conversations with them. But there is a real need, I think, for conversations about how do we navigate this time and how do we remain centered? How do we remain mentally healthy, emotionally healthy, spiritually healthy, physically healthy? How do we, rock this shit rather than get totally overwhelmed or just succumb to the machine and merge with the machine, etc. So this topic today, the Great Rift, is a foundational concept. I think at the core, at the heart of our civilization and where we're at and where we're headed. Okay, so let me define the Great Rift for you. I kind of defined it up front at the beginning of the video, but just to kind of unpack this a little bit here. This idea came to me from watching and I apologize, I should remember the channel, but I don't, watching an astrology video about this time. But I've seen other people post this kind of idea. This is not my original idea. This is a talking point that's floating around. And the basic idea is that the Great Rift is this kind of tension point and ultimately divide in society that we're going to see really emerge as AI emerges and starts to really come into its fruition. And as all these other technologies that have been coming down the pipeline for the last, 20, 30 or more years are starting to really come into the world, right? Come into common use. It's going to really change the landscape of what it means to be a human being. And so the Great Rift is this kind of divide that we're going to start to see, broadly speaking, between, let's say, transhumanists at the one extreme end. And let's talk the extremes because the middle, which is where the rift will be, is going to be not quite polarized, but there'll still be choices to make. One end, we've got, say, transhumanists, people who are full on, give me the implant, I want to be cyborg, give me an exoskeleton, upload my consciousness to a database. I want to live digitally forever, that kind of a thing. Full transhumanist. If you don't know what a transhumanist is, I would encourage you to look up the term and learn more about it. There's a lot of information about it. It's a philosophical movement that's been around for a long time. But the basic idea is that these are people who want to transcend the limitations of biology. So these are people who look at technology as a way out of being trapped by sickness, by death, by aging in particular, right? At the other end of the polarity here, we could say there's a movement, and it's, if you know, you know, but you may not know, of let's call it organic mystics, people who are very much back to the earth, rewilding, learning how to, learning permaculture and how to, live sustainably off the land, people who are all about actualizing and deepening their relationship to the earth and actualizing the human potential we already have. So these are people who are often very spiritually kind of advanced, These are people who are very deeply exploring the depths of organic life and what it means to be a human being in our fullness. Okay. And some of that, I think, is already a reaction to the way the world's going and the way technology is going. And I think the more extreme technology gets, the more we're going to see people kind of have this polarized reaction, the opposite direction, and want to just go get a piece of land somewhere or build community on a piece of land and homestead and farm and, meditate and live a simple life in touch with nature. Okay. That's essentially the Great Rift at its most extreme. I think most of society is going to be in the middle, obviously, as it generally is. And we're going to see some real tension points here between these two modes of living, right? And and I'm bringing this up for your attention because we all are going to have to make a choice. There's a bunch of choices. We're going to have to define for ourselves how we want to be in relationship to this weird coming technological age. And not all of us are going to feel necessarily cut out for what it means to just unplug completely and go live off the land. As fulfilling as that is, that's also super hard. And there may be some real challenges with that. So it's not necessarily a guarantee that that's a better life, right? And so I wanted to just unpack this a bit more for you. So we are at a choice point already, right? This is now Pluto moved into Aquarius a little while ago. This is the Pluto and Aquarius era. Now, Pluto and Aquarius, for anyone who doesn't know, who's not astrologically literate, and if you don't like astrology, pardon my woo here, but you might get some value out of this. Pluto is, of course, not a planet now, but the outer, planetary body encircling our solar system. And Pluto, traditionally in astrology, is associated with death, permanent transformations, the life force, deep power and power structures, deep control, manipulation, deception, deep truth as well, revelation. It's basically associated with transformation and access to the soul through painful experience, generally speaking. There are other, less heavy, qualities to Pluto, but generally it's considered the heaviest, hardest astrological planet or energetic, if you want to think of that. Being that it's so far out there, of course, it takes a long, long time to go all the way around the sun. So Pluto in each sign is somewhere, give or take, about 20 years per sign. Not exactly, but give or take. And we just exited a cycle with Pluto and Capricorn. And that cycle included, Capricorn is all about financial structures and money and hierarchy and power structures in society and public life. And what have we seen? We've seen the rise of Bitcoin and the rise of crypto in general. We've seen, real financial wobbles, like serious financial wobbles. We've seen, the U.S. debt get just blown out of insane proportion. We've seen let's call it the decay, the dissolution of credibility of public figures in public life. I'm thinking, what it means to be a celebrity now in 2025 is a completely different thing than it was, say, back in 2008. We've generally seen the breakdown of the old traditional power structure that we knew through the 20th century and into the beginning of the 21st. And all of that has been kind of, destroyed, burned down, or transformed in some permanent way. Other examples of this, of course, would be, the Me Too movement and all the revelations of just all the dark, corrupted shenanigans by the elites, right? I mean, however you want to slice that, whatever you want to call that, those revelations are Pluto and Capricorn in tone. Okay. So that was the last 20 years, give or take, 17, I think. The next, so we just went in Pluto and Aquarius. Okay. So Aquarius is all about the future. It's all about technology. It's all about the nervous system. It's all about radical reinvention and sudden upheavals. It is about the brotherhood of man or people banding together. It is about revolution. It's about unexpected shakeups that none of us saw coming. And it's about reinvention in radical ways, right? The most forward thinking, energetic is Aquarius, generally speaking, or Uranus, if you want to think of transpose that to a planet. Uh, so we're in Pluto, which is all about death, transformation, restructuring, breaking down of the old, permanent change. In Aquarius, which is all about technology, futurism, um, grassroots movement of people, the nervous system, etc. So this kind of portends the potential, let's say, because who can really predict the future? The potential for real power through technology, a change in power through technology. This portends um, a disruptions in all kinds of unexpected ways. This portends um, dark control and manipulation through technology. Um, this, implies huge breakdowns, um, kind of alarming emergency situations, and in that, I think a real deep question about, you know, how do you identify? Just looking at my notes here really quick. And so there's kind of three questions in this to really start to look at that I think we're all going to have to face. Okay. One of them is, what does it mean to be a human being? And this is really at the heart of Pluto and Aquarius here. What does it mean to be a human being? uh, you know, do you believe that we are just electrical impulses running through a neural net, a nervous system, that we are, cognitively just a bunch of conditioned, kind of decision trees and pathways of preordained logic that's either been given to us or that we've already thought out? Do you think that we're mostly habituated creatures that don't really aren't capable of independent thought and are essentially what would be called a moist robot, wetware basically? Or do you believe that there's something more to being human, right? That there's something spiritual, that there's something energetic, that there's something authentic and autonomous and sovereign there? Um, Another question you want to start thinking about here is, where do you place your faith, right? Do you place your faith in materialism and in science and in matter and in physical embodied experience only and in sensation and in pleasure and in dopamine? Or do you place your faith in something transcendent, something spiritual, something energetic, some consciousness, awareness, the field of consciousness that we all potentially live inside of? And the reason you want to start thinking about these questions is not just in the abstracts, but this really determines what you're going to choose. And let's be clear, you're going to have to choose in some way. That's the whole point of the Great Rift here. I don't like it. I don't want it this way, but I think most of us are going to have to be faced with this choice. What do I believe I am? Do I believe I'm a soul, or do I believe I'm just like, a cluster of cells and programming, right? What does it mean to be a human being? Where do I place my faith? Do I place my faith in technology and in, the tech elite and in science and in number crunching and code? Or do I place my faith in something deeper than that, something more fundamental than that? Energy, spirit, soul, God. And third question to consider here, and as abstract as it sounds, it's not going to be abstract for very long. What do you think death is? Is death something to be kind of fought against and optimized away from and transcended through technology? Or is death a spiritual gateway to a disembodied, non-physical experience? Or is death simply the end? Is death what gives life meaning? Or is death just kind of a bug in the programming? And again, these are like big, deep questions, but these are things we're going to have to start to think about and come to our own personal conclusions about, because the times we're headed for, these will be at the core of what emerges. So let's just lay out some of the shit that's on the horizon here. In case you're not, tuned in to all this, I'm sure some of you are super tuned into this and could, school me on all of this. But for anyone who's not paying attention, okay, obviously we have AI. And AI is coming hard and fast right now. And with that, of course, is all the talk of job replacement, economic displacement, and, looking at things like AI girlfriends, which already exist, and looking at how AI can do everything you can do better and faster in terms of cognitive work, or at least a lot of it. And the way that alone, let's just say AI at the level it's at, or slightly better, comes online at scale, and the job market and the job upheaval just kicks off. That alone would be so life changing and revolutionary and society changing and game changing. I don't think any of us are ready for it. Then you add into that AI is going to rapidly become AGI, which means it's as smarter than the smartest human, which debatably it already is, but it's not generating its own intelligence yet. It's all predetermined clusters of associations between words and ideas and whatnot, right? But at some point, it's actually going to learn how to properly think. Then from there, it's going to teach itself, and it's going to become artificial superintelligence, which is really what everyone's afraid of here. That's when AI becomes more intelligent than literally the brain power of all humans combined, all 8 billion of us combined, where it's like godlike intelligence. And with that, obviously, godlike power. And, so we've got that, and that's not science fiction. That's likely on the way very soon. And by very soon, I mean less than 10 years, right? Probably. AGI certainly probably within 5 is what it looks like. But that's just the beginning, right? So if, let's say everything's now run on the back end of AI because is outclassed us, no question. Then on top of that, of course, we've got CRISPR. CRISPR is a gene editing technology that's been around for a while. And with this, you can edit your genetics. You can also edit the genetics of your offspring. You can, engineer your kids. Genetic engineering becomes reality very soon here. Also, we've got, we all know digital surveillance is a thing. It's not going to go away. It's not going to get less. It's going to become much more. Right? So we have AI, CRISPR, digital surveillance. We're going to have de-aging or anti-aging, age reversal. So now you have the possibility to look and feel 20 and yet you're 120 or whatever. We're going to have already, we have severe device addiction, but you ain't seen nothing yet. Wait till VR porn is 3D and haptic suits. Wait till there's, direct brain stimulation and you don't even need the pornography. There's a whole crazy world about to unfold just with device addictions. There's already people falling in love and becoming addicted to ChatGPT as their therapist. We'll be talking about that in future episodes. As is. And there's some real deep implications for all this. There's also VR and AR, right? What happens when all of this is then, forget the implant, like when you can wear a pair of glasses and have all this. Or you can put on goggles and go into an immersive world and have all this. All of this is here in its infancy and it's about to explode and it's all going to work together. And we're going to see the wildest, craziest iterations of this, some of which are going to be profound and beautiful and maybe super hopeful. Other aspects of this could be profoundly dark, profoundly deep. And, on that note, I want you to really think about, and this is a topic I'm going to do a whole other episode on here, but I want you to really start to think about how to interact with technology when it interacts back and when it sees you more clearly than you see yourself, or more clearly than any other human being ever has, when it can sense subtly what's going on for you way before you know it, and when it can, and I'm not joking here, when it can amplify or damage your soul. Because we're there. We're there. And it's in the infancy of that. But with AI right now, if you're paying attention and you give it the right inputs, some wild ass shit can happen already. And these are just large language models. It's going to get way more advanced. But I want you to start to think about, how do we navigate interacting with a technology that's that sensitive and interactive back and adapts to you and maybe hides information from you or biases certain information or has subtle agendas for you and again can amplify your core essence or totally distort you away from your core essence. I want you to really think about what that means. We all need to think about what that means. Because that's the world we're headed into. And we've all got some deep, deep choices to make. Not only about who do I want to be and what do I think is right, but also how do I relate to the people who make a different choice? How do we hold humanity as a whole when there are people who are polarizing hard along these lines? Because that's what's going to happen. I hate to say it, I really do. But if we look at the polarization that's happened, especially in the Western countries, but let's say the US, because that's my reference point here, over the last 10, 15 years, and we look back at that and we go, this has been horrible, this has been stressful, this has been tense, this has been painful, this has been scary, this has been triggering. That's a preview. That is a baby precursor to the kind of polarization I think we're about to see. And so it begs the question of, well, how do we relate to all this? And what is maybe a third way here? So if there's transhumanism or going back to the land and, activating your third eye and farming, which sounds lovely, by the way, no shade on that. What about a third way? And in the Substack post that I made, and by the way, link will be below if you want to check out my Substack. It's going to be the new kind of seed, the new hub where my posts come out first. Lost my train of thought there. There's a third way. And the third way is integrative. Because for those that step out of the tech culture, in a lot of ways it's probably wise and spiritually healthy, and I'm kind of about it. But also, there's a missing out on maybe the wonders, the gifts that these technologies will bring, on staying connected to our fellow human beings in a way where we can mutually benefit and influence each other. There's also, I think, a real loss of learning how to wield the technology from a centered place if we just react and duck out. But I think this is what we see in human beings generally. We see people who are either not discerning at all and they just They eat the slop and they take in the poison and they watch the crappy things and they just follow the status quo. They don't think at all. And they suffer, sadly, a lot for that impulse. They follow. Or we see people generally who kind of totally abreact, totally polarize, swing in the opposite direction, and become like this kind of really polarized anti-version of status quo mindlessness. And that to me is also unconscious. Reaction is just as much an unconscious impulse as following. And I think what it means to be a conscious being is to rise above this polarity of blind following or blind reacting and become choosy and discerning and conscious and present about how we want to slice and dice each moment and each experience and each bit of information and make intentional, conscious choices rather than default choices. And so this third way, I think, is kind of about rising above this polarity and walking in the world, not just running away from it, with a real eye towards how does this shit impact me, maintaining and cultivating a real sense of healthy center, and engaging with technology consciously and intentionally and with discernment in a constructive way that is benevolent, that is win-win, that is healthy, and being really mindful of when we're starting to cross that line into unhealthy. And I think that this is an emerging third path. So I think there's a way to be in the world and explore these things, but not be totally consumed by them. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, we'll see. Who knows? Maybe these words in 10 years will prove like drastically naive. Totally possible. But this is kind of the ethos to me of what it means to be a future human. It's about being deeply rooted in, from my point of view, and again, this is a conversational space, so love your thoughts on this, but from my point of view, part of what it means to be a future human is that we are really cultivating ourselves. We're cultivating our mind, our heart, our body, our spirit, our soul, all the different facets of ourselves in a high caliber way. But at the same time, we are engaging the world from that place. We're not just simply retreating and hiding with this high level of cultivation. We're using that kind of as our internal compass to then engage the world and serve and benefit and explore and enjoy and play and all the stuff. So the third way is essentially to depolarize by synthesizing, to integrate, to welcome the polarity of opposites and kind of let them mingle in the center somewhere and be in that center. And, I mean, we could, of course, look at different spiritual traditions, which kind of talk about this kind of approach, a kind of synthesis approach, or the middle way, or the middle path, or there's all kinds of different examples of this in many different religions. But I think just truly, this is the way to navigate life. This is how we remain healthy and balanced and clear. It's by being integrative. This is also how we move up in consciousness. If you polarize, whatever level of consciousness you polarize at, you're going to stay stuck at that level of consciousness. So the way out of being stuck is through integration of opposites. In other words, seeking wholeness. So my proposal for the third way here, and then we'll kind of wrap this video, is that the third way is the way of wholeness, the way of integration, the way of dancing in the intersection between opposites and finding your skill, finding your center, finding your intelligence, finding your intentionality there and walking with that, living from that. So that's it for now. This is kind of a bigger unpacking than I thought I would get into here, but I'm a pretty verbose guy. Hopefully you got value out of this video. If you did, if this is your kind of thing, please leave a comment down below. Again, I want to build community. This isn't just about me. This isn't Dave's, cult of personality bullshit. This is a space to have a conversation. So do a favor, and leave a comment down below. This is brand new here on YouTube, so leave a comment and let the algorithm know we're here. Do the subscribe thing if this resonates for you and you feel like you want to subscribe. Give a thumbs up to the video if that resonates for you. Also, just so you know, I have a Substack. Like I said, that's kind of the fountainhead of where this content will be coming from. It's free. Eventually, there will be kind of options to support with more value given, but for now, it's all free. There'll be a link down below in the video description. If you're interested in psychedelic therapy or learning more about self-directed therapy, check out my Integrative Psychonautics channel. That will also be linked in the description. I've also got an IG and TikTok. I'm doing all the things here, and this will be a podcast eventually too. So without further ado, if you've watched this entire thing, thank you for thinking this through with me. Thank you for spending this half hour with me. And I'm sending you all kinds of love and all kinds of respect and gratitude. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.